Please tell me you picked up Trey McBride and played him last week. Fantasy football, week 10 is in the books. I hope you had a fantastic week. If you did not, I'm here. If you just did okay, I'm here. And if you did fantastic, but you need some help, I'm also here. The vibes today on this nice fall day, Krungbin Right is the song playing right now. I'm taking a break from Knocked Loose, this dope-ass metal band from the Louisville area that combines all the history of metal, basically, all these vastly different subgenres, plus their new ideas, and melded it really well. Anyways, I'm taking a break from them to have chill vibes today. I hope you're doing well. Hey, it's important to know this time of the year, the better you plan out, like a couple weeks ahead, the better your results are going to be. There's a wealth of metrics at this point. We're 10 games in. You know what teams are good, what teams are not. There's some teams that are in between, but you generally have a much better idea now than you did 3 weeks in, 4 weeks in. For instance, if you know a couple weeks ahead of time, your defense is going on bye, you might want to pick up the defense that's going against the New York Giants. They're not going to be good. The only good player on offense is Saquon Barkley, and he can't do it all. So keep that in mind moving forward. If you need an ad drops, I'm going to have those below in the comments. So if that's all you're needing, you can just stop the video now. But I'm going to give fantasy football and real life football analysis in all of the games. I watched several of them. I was able to watch highlights on a lot of them. And we'll start with the first game of the week, Bears versus the Panthers. God, that was a brutal game to watch. As far as the Panthers go, there's not anybody really worth discussing at this point. I'm not a Bryce Young truther, and other than Adam Thielen having 10 targets on 6 catches for 42 yards, there's nothing to note. Bears, Tyson Bagent, Division II player, looks better than Bryce Young. And it was to the benefit of the Bears to beat the Panthers because they have the Panthers' first-round draft pick, and they're going to get a high pick. You know, can you imagine the Bears with Marvin Harrison or Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison, assuming that they move on from Justin Fields? Speaking of Justin Fields, he'll be back this week. So Devontae Foreman was the star on offense. 21 carries, 80 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 receptions for 12 yards. Other than that, nobody else was fantastic this week because it was a terrible game to watch. Speaking of terrible games, the next game of the week, I am so sorry, Frankfurt, Germany, that you had to watch this in person and pay money for this. Colts beat the Patriots 10-6. Nothing really to note for the Patriots other than Mac Jones got pulled out of the game at the end of the game in favor of Bailey Zappi. Who knows who's going to be the quarterback next week? The important thing is, from an offensive fantasy perspective, it doesn't matter. You shouldn't have Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi on your roster at this point. Ramondre Stevenson, you should, because he had 20 carries and 88 yards, and then he had 3 catches for 14 yards. I did stream Demario Douglas this week in a couple of leagues, and it paid off. He had 6 catches for 84 yards, and he did fill that Kendrick Bourne role, so he could be a good streamer for you. Other than that, there's not much else to talk about. As far as the Colts went, Jonathan Taylor had 23 carries. That's big. So that's bell cow stuff. So he's back in the mix. He did have a touchdown and then 1 catch for 6 yards. And then Michael Pittman continues to be the best receiver on the team. 12 targets, 84 yards, 8 receptions. He's fantastic. All right. On to a much more interesting game. The Bengals and Texans. The Texans beat the Bengals 30-27. C.J. Stroud, 356 yards this week, continues to be fantastic. Here's an interesting note. Devin Singletary, 30 carries, 150 yards. That is big. If he's going to be the guy moving forward, grab him in seasonal league, and he could be a league winner for you in Dynasty as well. Same with Noah Brown, 7 catches, 172 yards on 8 targets. That's big. And then Dalton Schultz, 4 catches, 71 yards. From a tight end perspective, that's good. Tank Dell only had 6 catches for 56 yards, but he had 14 targets. That's insane. So, really, any pass catcher for the Houston Texans is worth owning in any format. T. Higgins was out. Jamar Chase had a stiff back, but still managed 6 targets, 5 catches, 124 yards, and a touchdown. Unreal. And Tyler Boyd filled that T. Higgins role, 8 catches, 117 yards on 12 targets. So if Higgins is going to be out a while, he's going to, Boyd is going to be the beneficiary of that absence. Okay. Minnesota Vikings beat the New Orleans Saints 27-19. Josh Dobbs. Man, 268 yards in the air, 1 touchdown, and then he rushed for 44 yards and a touchdown. So in seasonal leagues or dynasty, he's an own. He's probably going to be a league winner. You probably got him for free. He's super cheap and he's super productive. Wait till Justin Jefferson comes back. How good is he going to be? It's going to be interesting to watch. There are other things to talk about that happened with the Vikings, especially in the backfield. Ty Chandler out-touched Alexander Mattison 15-8. He wasn't super efficient, but he is a better talent than Alexander Mattison. He is worth owning. TJ Hawkinson, 11 receptions, 134 yards, 1 touchdown on 15 targets. That's unreal, man. When Jefferson comes back, the target volume will go down a little bit. I imagine his targets will be, 9 to 10, something like that, if Jefferson played in this game. But still, he's a hell of an own. Saints, Derek Carr went down this week with a concussion. If he's going to be out, Jameis Winston is an own in any format. Yes, he's going to throw interceptions, but he'll get touchdowns, and he may even rush a little bit. Chris Olave, 9 targets, 6 receptions, 94 yards, and a touchdown. That was a much better week for him. He's slowly becoming more productive. He had a ton of air yards throughout the season, so you knew it was coming. So it was good to see. And then Alvin Kamara, 7 targets, 7 receptions for 33 yards. You got to play him. All right, next game. Steelers beat the Packers 23-19. Kenny Pickett continues to be average, but they get dubs. Jalen Warren, 15 carries, 101 yards, a touchdown. Najee Harris, 16 carries, 82 yards, and a touchdown. I would say Jalen Warren is worth owning at this point. To me, he looks better on the field, looks more explosive than Najee Harris. Metrics say the same thing. Nothing worth talking about as far as pass catchers go for the Steelers. Nobody. The high volume target hog of the week is a 5-way tie for 4 targets. Who cares? All right, Jordan Love, average again, but Jaden Reed wasn't. 5 receptions, 84 yards, and a touchdown for the rookie. He looks really damn good. Christian Watson had 7 targets, but he only had 2 catches. He's not that great of a pass, rather a route runner yet. So for Dynasty, I would stash him. I would trade for him and know that I'm going to bet on his athleticism and him being a better route runner in 2024. Next game of the week. Tampa Bay Bucks beat the Tennessee Titans 20-6. Baker Mayfield, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mike Evans, 6 receptions, 143 yards, and a touchdown on 10 targets. And then Rachaad White, not super efficient on the ground, only had 20 carries for 51 yards. However, that's bell cow material. But in the air, he had 2 receptions, 47 yards for a touchdown. He hit a 43-yard touchdown. So that's where you get the value out of him in PPR. If it's standard, it's not as attractive. Will Levis had a rookie moment. 19 throws, 39. Sorry, let me take that back. 19 to 39 for an interception. Nobody was really killer anywhere else on the field. Tajay Spears did have 4 receptions, 42 yards. And that's pretty much it. Everybody else was lackluster. All right, next game of the week. Niners destroyed the Jacksonville Jaguars 34-3. The Jags just look bad. The only person to talk about that was good, Christian Kirk, 6 receptions, 104 yards. Trevor Lawrence continues to look above average, but not stellar. Brock Purdy had a hell of a game, 3 touchdowns, almost 300 yards in the air. McCaffrey killed it, although he ended his touchdown streak. 16 carries, 95 yards, and then he had 6 receptions, 47 yards in the air. That's tough to beat. If you have him, he's a league winner. George Kittle, 3 receptions, 116 yards, 1 touchdown, and then Brandon Ayuk had a touchdown as well. Browns-Ravens. Browns beat the Ravens 33-31. Hell of a game to watch. Jerome Ford, 17 carries, 107 yards on the ground. And then Amari Cooper, 9 targets. David Njoku, 9 targets. Those guys had productive days. Even Elijah Moore had 7 targets. So if he's going to continue to have that kind of volume, Moore is the pickup in seasonal league. Keaton Mitchell, interesting. 3 carries, 34 yards and a touchdown. And then he had 1 reception for 32 yards. Grab that dude. He's athletic. He's not going to be a bell cow. He's more of the Devin A-Chain mold. He's a smaller guy, but he's very explosive. And then Zay Flowers had a bounce-back game. Not a stellar game, but a bounce-back game. 6 targets, 5 receptions, 73 yards. All right, Arizona Cardinals beat the Falcons in the battle of who could care less. They beat them 25-23. Kyler Murray's back. It's good to see him. He rushed for a touchdown. And if he's already doing that post-ACL, what's he going to do 3 or 4 weeks from now when he ramps up? League winner. Trey McBride, league winner. 8 receptions, 131 yards. Rondell Moore had 8 targets. That's worth noting. Michael Wilson had 6 targets. That's worth noting as well. So now the Cardinals pass catchers are viable. Get them now. Pick them up now before it's way too late. As far as Atlanta goes, Bijan Robinson is the only player worth discussing. 22 carries, 95 yards and a touchdown, and then 1 reception for 11 yards. Everybody else wasn't fantasy relevant. Okay, barn burner. This is a fun game. I watched a little bit of this. Lions beat the Chargers 41-38. All kinds of fantastic fantasy stuff took place in this game. Jared Goff, 333 yards, 2 touchdowns. The running backs for the Lions, David Montgomery, 12 carries, 116 yards and a touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs, 14 carries, 77 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he also had 3 receptions for 35 yards. Gibbs is looking league winner. He's looking real good. And I think that offense can support both of those running backs week to week. Amon-Ra St. Brown, what a killer. 8 receptions, 156 yards, and a touchdown. He looked really good. Justin Herbert, he did much better this week. Last week wasn't great against the Jets. 323 yards, 4 touchdowns. Austin Eckler, 19 carries, 67 yards, and 1 touchdown. And then Keenan Allen killed it. 11 receptions, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns on 14 targets. Unreal. One thing I do want to note, Quentin Johnston hasn't looked stellar this year, but he did have 4 receptions, 34 yards, and a touchdown. So if he's going to give you that kind of production moving forward in seasonal leagues, he's probably a stash or worth owning. All right, we've got 4 more games to go. And this one was another beatdown. Fantastic day for the Dallas Cowboys. They beat the Giants 49-17. Dak Prescott, 404 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a rush for a touchdown. Unreal game. It's important to note here in this backfield, Rico Dowdle had 79 yards and a touchdown, and he was way more efficient than Tony Pollard. Any format, grab him. He looked better to me than Pollard. As far as pass catchers go, fun day if you're a Brandon Cooks owner. 9 receptions, 173 yards and a touchdown. If he's available in your league, grab him. And then CeeDee Lamb, my God, dude. 11 receptions, 151 yards, a touchdown. And then he also had a touchdown on the ground. So I had a league where I had that combo. I still lost because Doug Carroll had the most points ever in this dynasty league. The most points up to this date was 320. Doug scored 356. Congrats on that, dude. I had 280, which would have been good enough to beat any other team in this league except for Doug. I ran into him this week. But if you're going to lose to somebody, lose your homie. As far as the Giants go, I'm good. There's nothing worth discussing here in detail other than Tommy DeVito. Sounds like he's from Brooklyn. He's a good guy. He likes meatballs. Sorry, I'm Italian, so a little bit Italian. I can make fun of him. But other than that, everybody else was god-awful. All right, next game of the week. This is a good game. It was a real battle. Seahawks beat the Commanders 29-26. Geno Smith had a bounce-back game. I was concerned the last couple of weeks for him, so much that I picked up Drew Lock in a dynasty league just to hold him. But Geno, 369 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kenneth Walker, 19 carries, 63 yards, and then he had 1 reception, 64 yards, and he took it to the house. That's why you own him right there. He can do that. I wish they would pass to him more in the space on bubble screens and that kind of stuff, because he can take it to the house every time. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, 12 targets, 10 targets. So they're volume hogs. 7 receptions for DK Metcalf on 98 yards, and then 8 receptions for 92 yards and a touchdown for Tyler Lockett. Jackson Smith and Jigba, stash him. They started out the game like really focusing on him. I think he had 3 receptions like in the first quarter. So after that, they didn't go to him very much, but he's worth owning in deeper leagues for sure. And then Sam Howell continues to be a dynasty. He was free, and he probably, if he's in your league, you should have him by now, but he shouldn't be available. So fantasy viable. 312 yards, 3 touchdowns. Fantastic. And then Brian Robinson, running back, had a smash day in the air. 6 receptions, 119 yards for a touchdown, and then he had 38 yards on the ground. Okay, I did watch this game here. Raiders beat the Jets 16-12. I got to say, Aiden O'Connell, he throws a strong ball, and he was pretty accurate, 16 for 27 in the air. For a rookie that's a late-round pick, he looked pretty damn good. He targeted Devontae Adams heavily. That's what happens with these young quarterbacks. So hyper-target the best player. 13 targets, 6 receptions, 86 yards. And then Josh Jacobs, 27 carries, 116 yards. So those were the best players on their offense. Zach Wilson, 263 yards. There's moments where he actually looks like he's a good quarterback, and then there are moments where you go, no, he can't do this ever. He'll never be good. Anyways, Garrett Wilson, 9 receptions, 93 yards. Tyler Conklin, 7 receptions, 70 yards. And then Breece Hall, 3 receptions, 47 yards. Last game of the week, and I watched the majority of this, but I've got young kids, and I go to take them up to bed every night, and I lay with them and make sure we have good conversation. They fall asleep, so I didn't get to watch the entire game. Bills lost on a last-second field goal to the Broncos, 24-22. Here's an interesting part in this game. So the Broncos kicker missed his first field goal attempt, but the Bills had 12 men on the field. You know who the 12th guy was? Damar Hamlin. Yikes. Russell Wilson looked pretty good, but Javonte Williams looked really damn good. He had 21 carries, that's bell cow stuff, 79 yards, 4 receptions, 31 yards, and a touchdown. That's big. And then Cortland Sutton, hyper-targeted, 11 targets, 1 touchdown, 8 receptions, 53 yards. Josh Allen did not have a good game, and I mentioned in my video last week that he just didn't look fantastic. Another one of those games. 15 for 26, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. He did have a rushing touchdown, so from fantasy perspective, he probably did you okay. From a real football perspective, I'm concerned. James Cook, he looked dead in the water last week or previous weeks. 12 carries, 109 yards. And then he had 2 receptions for 11 yards. Looked pretty solid there. Dalton Kincaid had the best day for receivers for the Bills. 5 receptions, 51 yards, and a touchdown. Everybody else not really worth talking about. If you have any questions about anything, you want to have a discussion, you want to ask me about trades, anything, I'm always interested to talk about fantasy football. Have a good week.